The evil eye. Okay, it being 3 o'clock, we'd like to call the meeting of the Finance, Audit, and Legislative Affairs Committee, call it to order. And our first order of business is approval of the February 28th, 2023 minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Betty, Linda, are there any questions, comments, changes? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays? Okay, great. Moving on. Informational items. Monthly financial report. We'll just move down the list. Hi, Julie.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Before you today, we have the pre-audited December 22 financial statements. For a general fund, we were 121% of what was the expected budget. And for expenditures, we were under budget at 94.7. And there weren't any departments that were over their appropriations. So that is good news to report. For the income tax and PPRT tax, in your report, there is a deeper dive that I'm going to go over with you right now for the changes of what happened with that revenue. A lot of it has to do with some complex tax law. We brought in some of the analysis from the Illinois Municipal League. So please read that in your leisure, and there should be some good information in there. For sales tax, at the year end, the local use tax was above the budget, because when we did the budget, we were a lot more pessimistic of what we thought that budget was going to do based on the Level the Playing Field Act, and so that was better. But that offset what was the other sales tax revenues, and primarily in the regular sales tax, there was a $477,000 shortfall, and that is primarily due to a power plant closing in Bartonville. So that was a really large impact to our sales tax. Further to comment this afternoon, I just wanted to highlight that there was one fund that shows that it's negative fund balance, but we will have a journal entry that will recognize that revenue, because that revenue is to receive. So that fund should be good. So overall, I would say I think FY22 showed favorably with what was expected for revenue and expenditures. And in the coming months, we should have, like we do each year, a requested budget appropriation to apply these surplus of funds in the general fund to either capital or some other use. In the coming months, we will do that once we have a more final number for you folks. Are there any questions?
Betty, go ahead.
Yeah, Julie?
Yeah.
I just want to applaud you guys about the making that report so much easier to digest. It is so readable now. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Yeah, I like reading it now.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to Headington Oaks.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick update on Headington Oaks in your packet. We have the accounts receivable as of December 31st. We are seeing a little bit of movement from the Medicaid consultant and the work that he's been doing. I'm hopeful that we'll have more movement over the next couple of weeks and kind of get that nailed down. I've been working with our Matt Cook, our consultant, on some realistic numbers that we think are collectible, and we'll be bringing those with a request for write-offs to probably the next month's committee meeting. Some of these accounts are just so very old that there's, we really want to be realistic and get everything cleaned up this year. So that'll be forthcoming. We are the one hospice company that we have an agreement with, a settlement agreement with. They have made their first 3 payments successfully, so we hope that continues because that's good to recoup some of the cash there. And then finally, we're working with RSM on the Medicare cost report for fiscal 22, and that will be filed May 31st. So I'll give you an update as we get a little bit closer to there. There's still quite a bit of work to do for that. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any other questions on Headington Oaks financials? Okay. Moving on, March 2023 accounts payable review.
The payments that were made by the county in March of 2023 are in your packet. I wanted to point out one that may have a question, and it's for Headington Oaks. It's a larger amount than normal, and that's because some erosion repair work was done that we had committed to the new owners. So that was a little over 100,000 of that amount. But if you have questions on any other expenditures, I'm happy to answer those.
Any other questions? Linda?
I don't have a question, but I just want to tell you how much I love the printing out of all the checks. And if my colleagues will stop laughing and making fun of me, I'm pretty sure that they like it too. They just don't want to admit it. But it's really, really insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad it's a bit clearer, and it was a lot of credit to our new accounting system and to Julie for preparing this and figuring out how to get it out of the accounting system. So.
On the invoice descriptions, can you explain a little bit? You're actually going to be fine-tuning that?
Yes. So right now, you can see the invoice description. They're kind of all over the place, and that is because we have a decentralized accounts payable system here at the county. So that means we have multiple individuals putting in descriptions, and not everybody has the same naming convention. So we're going to be working toward that, but at the moment we don't want to overwhelm everybody with learning a new system and nitpicking on the descriptions. So if you can bear with us in the meantime, we'll shore that up here shortly too.
Any other questions? Linda?
I just have a general question. How do we negotiate our wireless cell phone contract?
Well, I believe we actually have multiple, so it's a bit decentralized. The overwhelming majority are done through Verizon as a current vendor, and it's off of a cooperative purchasing agreement. So so an example of a cooperative purchasing agreement would be, a different example would be police cars we purchase off of the state bid as an example. So for Verizon, it's either off of a state of Illinois bid or another of the many government procurement cooperative purchasing agreements that we participate in.
Just seems very expensive to me relative to what I spend for my own phone for unlimited text, streaming, and calls. I mean, I'm assuming not every one of our employees has a county-owned cell phone.
Correct. But those are any mobile device. So just taking myself as an example, it's my iPhone and my iPad would be what we pay for the two devices that I have. And both mine happen to be cellular versus Wi-Fi only and unlimited talks, text, and data. Board members, your iPads, I believe, are Wi-Fi only. So there is some charge, but the charge is less because there's no cellular charge on board member iPads, as an example.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could do better than the cooperative agreement, because this seems very expensive.
We'll certainly look at it, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Purchase order encumbrance rollover appropriations.
If you guys can remember, back in February, we had a policy change brought to the committee and approved by the board to change what the practice used to be of rolling over purchase orders individually, and then we would come to the county board and request the appropriations be done and then do one resolution for that. And the policies now, the board gave permission for those funds that were for purchase orders already approved and encumbered in the previous fiscal year to just be rolled over with the fiscal year close process to increase efficiency. And it is an automatic process with the system. So what you have before you today is the output of what was rolled over per the system. This report was reviewed also by Scott Sorrell, and we have submitted it to you for your review per the policy. If you have any questions, happy to
Any questions?
be here for you.
Questions? Okay. Moving on, external auditing firm for FY23 audit.
This is truly just an informational item. In the near future, we'll be issuing a call for bids for our external auditing firm. The county is on the last year of our contract with our current firm, Sikich. And if you'll recall, we had them on for 5 years and we extended it so that they could be with us during our transition from Penimation to Munis, which the audit is actually going very well, even with 2 different systems. So we are grateful to IT for allowing us to maintain Pentimation for the documentation for our auditors, or it could have been a little messier. So I'm working with Jim in our department on a request for proposal, and we will probably have those out and then back to the board for review late summer, early fall. So just kind of a heads up that this is coming. And it's a 5-year contract.
Any questions? Can you just give a policy overview of how we do that with our auditing firms? We choose one and we, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're usually larger firms, or always larger firms, so that they can handle and have experience in governmental accounting, since it's much more complicated. And with all of the single audits that we have to do. And we will not use the same one in the next 5-year period. So Sikich would not be eligible for this next 5-year period. We switch up the firms. So is that what you were looking for? Okay, perfect.
With new board members, they don't know the
Right.
policy of what we do with our external auditor, so just wanted them to know.
Perfect.
So thank you. Okay, any questions? Moving on, we are at the joint resolution, Tyler Enterprise Supervision, and this was joint with County Operations Committee, which was just held and passed unanimously. So, Mark, fine. Yeah. Okay, sorry, thank you. Steve made a motion, second. Rob? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. So for those of you who were at Operations Committee prior to this, we'll go through this again. So in front of you today is the approval to spend $376,995 from the IT fund balance, which the question from last committee came up with the current fund balance is. That's currently at $5.4 million. So that's in the financial report from this committee. We started on this back in 2021 when the Illinois Supreme Court had mandated new collection of data sets from probation within all counties. And what I said in the last committee is that when you look at those new data sets, there's 2 sets of questionnaires they have to go through. And within that first data set is over 754 items that must be answered. In the second data set, there's 3,360, so it's a lot of new data. We've been running our current Tyler probation system since 2013, and unfortunately it does not have the capability or upgradability to capture all that information. So we worked from 2021 through earlier this year trying to figure out different ways to capture that data, and every roadblock we ran into is either special programming, adding more people. But Tyler has a new, what they call Tyler Enterprise Supervisions, which has this capability built within it. And I will let Brian kind of go through his business process, the impact on him, on if he does it, if he doesn't do it, and take questions at the end.
Yep, good afternoon. Like Mark said, yes, it would require probably a minimum of 3 county-funded positions. Just to give you kind of an idea, you're looking at 6+ hours to capture all that data for every probationer that comes through our door. So obviously that's a tall task. So we would look at 3 to be able to capture that data. Plus we would have to work with IT to create a separate database and how to figure out to get it from that database up to the Supreme Court's website. As I stated earlier in the operations committee, this is statewide. One county has adopted Tyler supervision, and it seems to be working very well for them, and they've had little to no issues. So the capability is there, and we tried everything and worked well with IT and Tyler, and just could not come up with a solution that was efficient. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Steve?
Just a thought, I guess, with the current system today, are you going to have to shut down the current, it's not muted, what's your current system today you use?
Well, we're currently running Odyssey probation, which was part of the original Tyler implementation that went live here in 2013. We'll migrate all that almost 10 years worth of data over. That's within that. That's on them to do. We'll take all that existing probationary data and migrate it all into the new system. So no, we will not lose any. We will run the current one up until the time we'll go live. From a timeline perspective, if this gets approved by the board in May, we're still shooting for a kickoff of this project in September. And then it's about a 9 to 10 month project with resources working on both sides. And so by this time next year, we should be ready to go live. So.
Okay, then I'll just add one more piece around Odyssey. Maybe just for the board here, give us a little background, Odyssey for the court systems and the longevity and kind of what's the timeline for its either upgrade or replacement, anything in the planning?
Sure. I arrived here in August of 2013. The county had signed an agreement with Tyler for the Odyssey court management system in 2012, actually, so it had been in process. And one of the goals I was given was to get the product live at that time when I first started. We went live in November of 2013. Court management system is from when someone is brought into the jail and booked. Jail management at the JDC, attorney manager in the state's attorney office, the actual court management system, the official record, and then probation. So it follows from when you're booked in to when you're on probation. Fully integrated all the way through, and I still, when I'm with my peers, I still brag to the fact that we have one of the only fully integrated court management systems in the state of Illinois. Same vendor, all the way through, all integrated, so it's a rarity. We do a lot of reference work for Tyler. I get a lot of phone calls. They get a lot of phone calls because we are a fully integrated system. It's just not common today in government. So we actually upgrade on a regular basis, Odyssey. We are just kicked off 2 weeks ago, a upgrade to 2022. We get those regular upgrades for free it's part of our regular maintenance. We started out on 2014. In August of 2022, we went live. In August of 2020, we went live on the 2018 version, and by this August, we're going to go live on the 2022 version of Odyssey. And that's a project in itself. That's a 5-month project because it's actually in our system on site today, the new one. We are going through all the testing. We've got in-depth testing processes that we go through, and we'll go live on that. So At current, there's no, I mean, I don't believe there's any plan to replace it. From a dollar standpoint, over the last almost 10 years, we've, in between maintenance and implementation and all the other stuff, we've got $7+ million invested in that system. So I foresee it, it's one of those where as long as we continue to upgrade it and keep optimizing it, which we do, I have a dedicated resource within IT that's their full-time job, is to make sure that we are utilizing that system as its fullest and to go in and help those departments use that from that perspective. So we will have a challenge to look at in a couple years. One of the risks we have with that system is that we currently host it here on site. It takes, from a perspective, it takes 36 servers to run that system, so it's a big system. We're going to have to look at software as a service to host that externally due to business redundancy and that eventually, but we're still a few years out from that. Our last upgrade, we replaced all the back-end systems, part of it, so it's all been upgraded. It's all running on the latest servers and all the software. So that's probably more in-depth than what you wanted to know, but I hope that covers it.
I appreciate the detail. Just as we look at, IT systems and managing, there's always the upgrades, there's the maintenance contracts and duration, and then the forbid obsolescence from a supplier, which then gets you into a real bind. So trying to make sure we have some visibility of any pending, as long as things are running as planned and you have a maintenance contract and it's working, but we want to avoid surprises, or as I know you've done in the past, have done a good job of, if you know there's a capital cost or a cost that will have to be put into the budget or the plan 2 years out, you start working it. But just wanted to make sure the board and this committee, from a finance standpoint, was aware of anything that would be pending. I guess it doesn't sound like you have anything significant.
Not from the Odyssey side. Not our next upgrade will be probably a year and a half out, version in probably 2025-ish to Odyssey, and that's where we're going to have to look at. Do we want to make the decision of continuing to host that on site, or do we want to look at moving that to the cloud? The last time we went through it, it wasn't quite ready for the cloud, as big as our system is considered. Tyler's now running Odyssey statewide versions on state courts all the way across every county and states at that level in the cloud. So it's ready today. We'll take a look at it when that time comes.
All right. Any additional questions? Okay. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Are there any nays? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? Miscellaneous? Okay, we will adjourn. We'll take about a 5-minute break before we start executive.